How can you relieve stress and anxiety naturally? As someone in the past who has really felt like stress and anxiety has almost overtaken me, has controlled my life, I plan to show you in this video one way to think about stress and anxiety, my go-to habits, and then some proactive things that you can do before the stress and anxiety hit to help you prepare for those and maybe eliminate them completely. So I promise you, by the end of this video, you will understand how to think about stress and anxiety and what to do when it comes up and how to do it naturally. With that being said, my name is Richardson. I'm a coach here at Life on Your Terms, and I make these videos to help share my experience and share my knowledge to help you learn quicker than I ever could. So the first piece is how to see stress and anxiety. I think in society, a lot of people like to say that stress is bad. You shouldn't have any stress. You should always be happy all the time. I reject that notion because that states that all other emotions are bad. And I actually truly believe that stress can be a really good thing. Not chronic stress that interferes with bodily function, sleep, stuff like that. All that stuff's not good. But just a little bit of stress, a little bit of that feeling can be good because what it does to me is it indicates importance. Because I tend to feel stressed when I have a busy day, but then that gives me the fuel to take on that busy day, and I end up having a great day usually, as long as it's not too cramped. So I would argue that stress actually indicates importance. It can be uncomfortable to deal with, but if you can kind of shift it to be like, okay, actually this could be a really helpful piece of energy, or it shows me how important this is, that can be helpful working through that stress and anxiety. And it can help push you to do the things you need to do and deal with some of the overwhelm you may feel. I don't know if you've ever felt this, but for me, when my place is really cluttered, if I have clothes everywhere, I tend to get really stressed out, but I'll actually just crank through it because I get that natural energy from that stress. That's how I like to think about it, and that's helped me. So that's one thing, is how you can see some stress. Now, how you can see anxiety is simply too many perceived options. So let's say you have 50 different jobs that all want to hire you. That's a lot of jobs to pick from, and that can be a lot of anxiety and a lot of options. So what you need to do is start cutting, start eliminating, because I bet you feel a lot better if you got it down to 2 or 3 jobs that wanted you. Same thing if you ever have struggled with picking a gym program or a gym itself and committing to it, it's too many options, so you need to cut. So if you're feeling really anxious about something in your life, it probably means there's too many perceived options. And I say perceived because I bet a lot of those options that you're anxious about aren't even very realistic. So what I encourage you to do is just start cutting those options and just getting rid of them and just committing to whatever option. If you're feeling anxious about the unknown, it's because you have too many options in there. So how can you make the unknown known? So that can be really helpful as well with anxiety, is just cutting. Now, also, like I said, to wrap this all up with how to see stress and anxiety, is stress is not always bad and you need to just eliminate with anxiety. Those are the 2 takeaways from the first point. So the second point are my go-tos to relieve stress and anxiety naturally. And for me, lifting and exercise is my first go-to. I try to do it, I do it 5 days a week. I exercise 5 days a week, and that is my go-to, and that helps me with my stress and anxiety so much. So if you're not exercising, that's a great place to start. And it doesn't have to be lifting. It doesn't have to be MMA like I do. It can be walking. It can be running. Whatever works for you, lean into that. On top of that, nature is typically really helpful for me. Sometimes I like to go out there and just sit on that deck, and there's a bunch of trees out there, and I just sit and I just think and I feel and just listen to the wind, let's look at the trees, stuff like that. That is also a go-to for me for my stress and anxiety. Another piece is simply elimination with work or whatever options I have, because sometimes you feel stressed and you just need to get into it. It's like what I said with my laundry or messy house. When I'm in a cluttered house, just getting into it and eliminating that is really helpful. So that might be the answer for you, is actually just doing it. Whatever you feel stressed about, don't try to avoid it, but actually just do it. Because I think a lot of our stressful things in our lives are things we avoid. So some piece of this is you just need to do the work and get into it and start eliminating if it's anxiety. On top of the elimination, another piece I like to do is meditation and ice baths. Specifically ice baths. I do ice baths twice a week, and what I find is actually breathing is the root, because the water never gets warmer. So every time I get in, I'm a little bit anxious and I'm a little bit stressed. because it's really cold when I'm at Itsuku. But what I can do is I can lean on my breath. So what that teaches me is that outside the ice bath, I can bring that breathing to confrontational situations. I've had confrontational situations on coaching calls, stuff like that, and I can use that breathing to calm my stress, calm my anxiety, and then the same thing with other situations as well. So finding a way to get breath work into your routine somehow, I think ice bath is the best way, because it's going to physically stress the hell out of you. It's also going to stress and make you anxious as hell about getting in. So I think that's one of the best solutions to that. Now, on top of the meditation, self-talk, all that stuff is that, I'm sorry, I just said it, self-talk. Self-talk is another great piece of things. Is what are you telling yourself? Pay attention to what you're telling yourself about the stress and the anxiety. Are you being super negative about it? Are you telling yourself certain things? Walk yourself through what you're telling yourself, and that can be really helpful to work through that as well. The third and final piece is your lifestyle before these problems come up. It's better to be preventative than rather to reactive. If you just feel like you're reacting to all the stress and anxiety, it's time to prevent some of these things. So what I encourage you to do, the first thing is scheduling. I think time is the reason we avoid a lot of the things, is we go throughout our day and we're like, I don't have time to go to the gym. I don't have time, which is a bullshit excuse, but that's what we rely on. So I think if you can time out your things, plan your day, and religiously stick to it, that's a really good lifestyle change to prevent some of these problems. On top of that, things as simple as your diet can be really helpful and control how you feel. If you're eating fast food every day, I guarantee you feel like shit. But if you're eating chicken rice, or even Chipotle is one of my go-tos I feel good about, and I feel a good energy from. If you could find foods that you feel really good eating, I would encourage you to lean into that. That can be really helpful to prevent some of these things just on a physical level. Now, on top of that, sleep. Sleep is huge in how we deal with stress and anxiety, how we talk to ourselves, stuff like that. So again, aim for 7 to 9 hours. You'll feel better, I promise you. Take this from someone who's been sleeping 8 hours their whole life every night, and I promise you, you will feel better if you get your sleep right. On top of this, I think it goes without being said that a lot of people like to lean on drugs or crutches to get through this stress and anxiety, and I plead you to not do that, because it's only going to make it worse. So if you have some crutch that you know that you go to every time you're stressed, you're anxious, eliminate that, and I think that'll help with your stress and anxiety as well. If you want to help with your stress and anxiety, take the balance wheel in the description below, because that's going to show you your life in this cool pie. And this cool pie is going to show you professional, your relationships, your health, and your resources, and some subcategories around related to that stuff that helps you commit and helps you relieve some of that stress and anxiety, because you're making it known and you're doing the work necessary. If you like these videos, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe so I know to make more of them.